Okay, this looks like this is going to be just fine. All is right with the world. And now at this particular point, I could go ahead and start putting in a couple of COBOL statements here. So what I'll go ahead and do is just put something in here. Okay, I've gone ahead and put in just a standard display statement, and now we're all good to go. Now we'll go ahead and build this. So if I go ahead and say build class library 1, and I'll put up the output window here so that you can actually see that the build is started. And as you can see, the build has succeeded. So at this point, one would think, okay, we can just go ahead and run this and it would run fine. Well, let's go ahead and try that. Now, by the way, what you're going to see here is an error. I'm going to go ahead and start this and let this run. And now we see an error. So a project with an output type of class library cannot be started directly. Well, my goodness, what the heck does this mean? Well, basically what this error is telling you is that this particular project is set up as a class library. Anytime you build up a class library, you're going to create a DLL. So what we need to do to this is change this to an executable. So I'll come up here, select class library 1, and then of course I'll come down here to properties. And now you see the application properties here. So the assembly name is class library 1, the default namespace is class library, the output type is class library, and again that's going to be a DLL, and of course the startup object for this is not available. There is nothing in a class object or class library or DLL that can be started directly. So again, we need to change this. Now since I used a display, I'll go ahead and make this a console application so that we can actually see the displays pop out on the console. Now when I go over here to startup object, I can see the static method that I had just created. It's all out here and ready to be started up here. So now I'll go ahead and just save, and I'll close this here. Actually, I think I'll leave this open for just a second. I want to show you another little feature here. Again, since I'm a COBOL programmer and I love to lift things out of here, I'll go ahead and copy this and insert this. Again, I will right mouse click and say paste, and of course I see my information out here. I'll go ahead and make sure that this is formatted properly and named properly so that the compile will work. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and created a second method. I'll go ahead and build that, and we should be good to go. Now, I have purposely done this so that you can actually see an error being created. Method ID is invalid in this context. End marker does not match the current source unit, and position of the method definition is invalid. Well, what it's saying is that there is a problem with where I have got all of this. Notice this word static, and this is a common error, and I wanted to show you this common error up front here so that you can see it and avoid it. Notice that I've got static here, and then I've got another method. This method actually lives outside of the static, and I went ahead and selected this whole thing without regard to where static was. So if I go ahead and just delete this one right here, everything will be fine, and I'll go ahead and be able to build my class library again. You have to be very careful about where you put all of these methods, and where all of the components are located here, the statements are located. So again, the build succeeded. If you go over here to output, you see that 1 succeeded, or is up to date, 0 failed, 0 skipped. So now I'll be able to move forward. Now you'll notice that you'll recall from before that I only had one option in there for the static method to be the startup object. If I come back in here now, I will see two methods out here. So static method 1, static method 2. So again, I've built this up so that I can have some choices here, and I can show you how dynamic the environment is. Now let's go ahead and start talking about some of these instance objects. Again, all of this is pretty well laid out for you. I can go ahead and make this one instance method 2, or make it instance method 1. Instance method 1, and I'll just make this right here. Instance method 1, and I'll go ahead and put in a display. And actually, I'm going to just lift this code right here because that pretty much says what I want to say. I'm just going to go ahead and make a quick change to that. You have entered instance method 1. And of course, I want to make sure that this is exactly the same as well. So I'll highlight that, and I'll highlight it and try to copy it here. And my mouse just doesn't want to cooperate with me, so bear with me. I'll copy it, and I will paste this over the top of this, and paste. So now all of this should compile just fine. And since I've got 2 of those up top in the static method, I'll go ahead and replicate that just in keeping with convention. And notice this time I didn't select object, the end object. I'll just go ahead and put this in here and kind of clean this up just a little bit here so that we can be ready to go. And I'll make this instance method 2 and replicate that so that there's no confusion. And of course, notice the squiggly line. It says that these 2 don't match. So again, I need to make sure that the change is propagated down there as well. Okay, so all should be right with the world. I should be able to get a good compile. I'm going to go ahead and pin this down so that you can actually see the build process. And we will go ahead and do the build. So I'll say build class library 1. And as you can see, the build succeeded. So at this particular point, I would be able to go ahead and run this again because I created it as an executable. I gave it a startup method here. So let's say that I want to go ahead and just start the debugging. I'll just go ahead and click on step over here, and basically what will happen is this will cause the debugger to start at the first executable line, or basically stop at the first executable line to be debugged. And let me go ahead and adjust the environment here so that you can kind of see both the class library command window and the actual debugging session here. So notice it stopped on procedure division. That's the first executable line of your program. So I can go ahead and start stepping through, and I'm pressing F12 here, and basically it's moving to the next line. This right here, this arrow that you see here, is the next statement that will be executed. If you wanted to change the next statement, you could just move it, move the arrow around as you wish, or you could basically change the starting point. You could set a breakpoint to another place in the program, which we'll do here after a little bit. I'll show you how that works. So this will go ahead, if I go ahead and say debug and continue, so I'll step over that, you can see that you have entered static method 1. And of course, that's what we have set up for display. And if I go ahead and say continue with the run, it goes ahead and finishes my program. So what you've seen is the ability to create a program with some methods and with some objects here. This is a complete class library, and again, you could put in as much complicated code as you need to, or it could be simple like you see right here. Now, one other thing that you need to know, you do have the capability of taking and lifting COBOL code off of another system, be it a mainframe or another PC system, and allowing for the differences in COBOL dialect. You should be able to get that code to run very easily just by wrapping that basic COBOL logic with a few lines of object-oriented COBOL code, and it shouldn't be that difficult to do. So what I'm going to do next is change this class library back to a class library instead of an executable. So again, I'm going to come down here to properties, and I'm going to go ahead and change that back to class library and save my work and close my window here. And now I'm going to go ahead and rebuild all of this stuff because again, I've created some DLLs. I've created, created the DLL, created PDB files. So those are the debug pointers. I've also created an executable. I want to go ahead and make sure all of that is deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and put up the output window here so that you can see that process. And I'll pin that down. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and recompile this in just a minute. I've got to get rid of my properties window. And I'll go ahead and right mouse click and then just say rebuild. And now notice what happens here in the output window. It's deleting some files there, and now it's recompiling or rebuilding all of the class library for me. Rebuild all succeeded, 0 failed, 0 skipped. So all is good. So I'm going to go ahead and let that hide.